Welcome to the Moved to Meditate podcast. I'm your host, Addie D. Hilster. If you're a yoga practitioner or teacher who knows that there's more to yoga than poses, but you're wondering where to find that, come join our quiet little party. Here you'll find resources to help you deepen your practice, as well as insightful conversations with yoga, movement, and meditation teachers from a range of traditions. On this podcast, we spotlight the more contemplative aspects of movement practice. So we talk about all things gentle yoga, meditation, yin, restorative, yoga therapy, mindfulness, and more. Listen in and connect to a community of like-minded practitioners. Today's episode is brought to you by the Moved to Meditate class library. If you're inspired by these conversations we're having here on the podcast and you'd like to put some of these ideas into practice, may I suggest that the Moved to Meditate class library is a great resource. I have over 100 classes to choose from, and I'm adding more every month. And the focus is on mindful movement, therapeutic yoga, and yin, all through an accessible and trauma-informed lens. You can choose to subscribe at the library-only level, which is very affordable, or the live stream plus library level to join me for live classes as well. Partial scholarships are available if you want to practice, but cost is a barrier. One of our members, Julia S., who is a massage therapist, wrote in a while back and said, "I just wanted to let you know how much I've been enjoying the classes and what a truly wonderful offering this is. I've already recommended Moved to Meditate to several clients and friends, one of who said, 'That's bound to go viral.'" She says, "COVID has been a gift in some ways, and making things like Moved to Meditate available worldwide is one of them." Wow, thank you so much, Julia. That is amazing to hear. So if you want to join Julia and others in the Moved to Meditate library, go to movedtomeditate.com and start the 14-day free trial. All right, on to today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today is a solo episode with me, Addie, and what I wanted to talk about is what I've been learning from Qigong lately. I have been practicing lots of Qigong over the last few months. I've really gotten into it. So I thought I would just share a little bit about this movement practice and why it's been so fun for me and what I'm learning from it. If you aren't too familiar with Qigong, it is a mindful movement and energy practice from China. It's considered actually a branch of Chinese medicine. And if you know what Tai Chi is actually a form of Qigong. I've learned that Tai Chi tends to be more martial arts based, and as I understand it, every move in Tai Chi is like a block or a punch or something that has to do with martial arts, although slowed way down into a meditative practice. So Qigong is a practice of cultivating and balancing energy. Qi means life force energy. The equivalent of that in yoga, if you're familiar, would be prana. And the gong, part of Qigong, means to work with. So Qigong really means to work with our Qi. The practices that I've been doing include activating acupressure points and meridian lines. Like sometimes you will tap on the body or sweep across a meridian line with your hands. There are also meridian stretches and different breath practices. And the flowing movements that you see are very inspired by nature, which is fun. And many of the forms will imitate clouds, or you'll imagine moving your hands across water, or you'll imitate animals, or use the moon or other kind of natural elements for inspiration. So you can kind of picture what this practice looks like a little bit. It's mostly done standing, and so it's accessible in that way for a lot of people, I think. But why am I so into this lately? Well, yoga has really been my home-based practice for many years, but I always like to cross-train, if you will, with different movement practices and try different things. it's always interesting for me to explore, and movement practices are just kind of my jam. And they always give me new perspectives on the yoga that I'm practicing and teaching, which is why my classes are so influenced by theory and moves from, things like somatics and mindfulness meditation and even strength and conditioning. Although that takes a pretty gentle form in most of my classes, but there are all these influences from the different things that I practice or do for my own well-being. So first off, I've been so into Qigong because getting more into this movement practice has been a really great way of deepening my understanding of Yin Yoga, because Yin Yoga is also based on the same energetic system of Chinese medicine. So I've been familiar for a long time with the meridians and the elements like earth, water, fire, and all the ways that we work with Qi in Yin Yoga. But Qigong gives me a new way to explore that in a more active practice and to learn some additional techniques, like to learn more details on specific acupressure points and just to go deeper in the theory from a slightly different perspective. And like Yin Yoga, Qigong draws from both Taoism and Buddhism, so they're really compatible practices together. So then secondly, Qigong has been really good because it's an amazing practice for nervous system and energy management. And because of how the last few years have been, I'm sure that others can relate, I have found myself needing to step up my game on minding my nervous system and rebuilding my sense of vitality and energy. I mean, there's been the pandemic. For me, going through closing my studio and shifting my whole entire livelihood and all my teaching activities online, the learning curve of that, and then moving 1,000 miles from Los Angeles to Washington State, and plus worrying about some health problems that have come up for some of my family members. So overall, it's just been a lot. And a lot of it's good. I'm not complaining. I love what I'm doing now, and I love where we're living. But with all the change, it's been really hard to not feel kind of ungrounded. So I got to a point towards the end of the summer where I was just flattened. I kind of felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I had no energy, and I was even feeling more and more anxious because I didn't have any resiliency left to deal with anything. So I was kind of there better not be any more problems because I can't handle it. So I just, I needed to rebuild my sense of resiliency and energy. So if, something comes up, I can actually deal with it and handle it. And that's when I dove into Qigong. My meditation teacher, Heather Sundberg, who I've been practicing with for several years, is a really big fan of Qigong, and she always has us do a lot of what she calls mindfulness of the nervous system practices, which include Qigong, because tending to the nervous system helps prepare you for deeper meditation. It's kind of hard to go deep in meditation when you're just bouncing off the walls in your inner environment in your system. So I was like, okay, let me give that more of a serious try. So I'll be giving some more recommendations at the end, but I have to say I've really been liking Lee Holden's classes, Qigong classes, because his sequencing tends to start with lots of clearing, getting out the old energy or discharging the kind of jangly flux from the nervous system. Super helpful for me. And then getting the energy flowing and kind of activating the qi, as he says, through tapping on the body or acupressure, self-massage, and more dynamic types of movements. And then he usually goes into some meridian stretching to release some tension. And then you finally drop into these simple Qigong flows, and things really quiet down. It's such a good preparation, and you start to quiet down, and you really start to drop in and feel that sense of mindful movement. And it's quite delicious, I have to say. So that's the second reason that I've been getting into Qigong, is just to help tend to my inner environment of mind and body and nervous system and energy, so that I have some qi to go about my day. And the third reason is really because I've been enjoying the beginner's mind aspect of learning a new practice. It has been really refreshing to just be a beginner at a movement practice. I think it helps me to relate better to my newer yoga students. I've been practicing yoga since 1998, so it's kind of hard for me to remember exactly at this point, what it was like to be new. I can kind of remember, but it's kind of more fun to be in those shoes as a Qigong student and to not know exactly what to expect. And I also don't know enough yet to be super picky and critical, or kind of be a critic of the teacher, which is nice. Not a connoisseur yet, I guess. And there are lots of fun surprises learning the different forms. I find Qigong quite colorful. The other day we were making antlers with our hands at our head. And I'm like, what am I doing? So we're making antlers, you're making hooves to do a deer form, or just learned one called grinding tofu. Okay. Doing the swimming dragons. Yeah, so I just find it entertaining to learn these new forms and to be surprised, and, the colorfulness and the relationship with nature that Qigong has. That's been really cool. I did try Qigong on a DVD several years ago, and I only probably did it once. I felt totally lost. Historically, I have not been very good at picking up choreography. When I was growing up, a dance class was kind of my worst nightmare, because I would be going backwards the wrong way, and just as soon as I got a step, they would change it, and I was like, I hate this. But maybe it's because I have learned a few simple Qigong routines on meditation retreats in the last few years. Or maybe I've just gotten more coordinated. Maybe we give me credit for that. Yeah, right. I'm more coordinated. But I am finding these routines easy enough to follow, simple enough to do now. And I think maybe I'm just less uptight, because it's I'm enjoying just being a beginner and letting it be imperfect. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll learn something new next time. It's all good. So there's that beginner's mind, and just that it feels really good. And I tend to have more energy afterwards. My body loves it like it loves yoga. And my nervous system feels more stable after a couple of months of doing consistent Qigong, which means that my thoughts and emotions and my energy level are all just in a better groove. So those are the reasons that I've been getting into Qigong. And if you've been coming into my classes, you've probably been hearing me mention it more lately, and that it's been really fun. So if you are now interested, if I have it's piqued your interest in trying Qigong, I'll give you some recommended resources, and these will also be in the show notes so you can get the links. But I would highly recommend looking up Mimi Kuo Deemer. Her name is Mimi, and her last name is hyphenated, Kuo-Deemer, Deemer. And she's a really great teacher, and a very good place to start is just looking up her YouTube channel. She has some free practices that are very doable and interesting. And she has an excellent book I would highly recommend that's called Qigong and the Tai Chi Axis, Nourishing Practices for Body, Mind, and Spirit. So excellent book if you want to learn more about meridian theory as well. I would also recommend the teacher I mentioned before, Lee Holden. His virtual studio is really good. He has live classes and longer recorded classes, and I just really like his sequencing and the arc of his classes. So I think he's kind of an eclectic teacher, if I understand. He's probably not teaching a pure lineage of Qigong. I'm not an expert on this yet, but it seems like he's pulling together a lot of different sort of aspects of Qigong and a nice well-rounded practice. So you could look up holdenqigong.com. That's his site. And then I'll also mention Teja Bell. That's Teja Bell, Bell. And I haven't personally taken Teja's classes, but a lot of my meditation friends really recommend him. His website is called qigongdharma.com, and he's known for blending Qigong and Buddhist teachings and integrating the two. So I can see why that resonates with a lot of my meditation friends. And he's been like the main Qigong teacher at Spirit Rock Meditation Center for a long time. So those are my suggestions. And even if it's not Qigong, I highly recommend trying new things and cross-training yourself with different movement practices and just seeing how it can refresh you mentally or give you a new perspective on movement, and to just have fun with your practice. So, okay, I hope this has been interesting to listen to, and maybe you feel inspired to go out and try something new. All right. Thanks everybody so much for being here and for hanging with the podcast so far, hanging out with me on here. And I'm grateful for your listening, and I look forward to being with you again next time. So that's today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend and/or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and help others find us that way. To learn more about my work, the Moved to Meditate class library, live online classes, teacher trainings, and private lessons, go to movedtomeditate.yoga. Thanks so much for listening.